Where we at? Where we at with Jalen Hurts?
Passed it. He should be good to go.
Fuck. Okay.
He had a full practice yesterday. No things that we heard of. He was throwing the day before, so we assumed that he was fine. Or both quarterbacks were wearing a red jersey, so you couldn't say, hey, he was in a practice jersey. He wasn't. But yesterday was a full practice. They claimed the full practice last night. They expect them to release him to protocol, to clear the protocol today and to start on Sunday. If you look at the data for what a quarterback does after coming back from a concussion, you'd think maybe no changes like a wide receiver, like a running back, like whatever. It's not quite as clear. I tweeted this out a couple days ago, maybe from an old tweet that I did earlier in the midseason. It's a little bit of everything. There's been guys that did great. There's been guys that kind of did the same, and then there's been guys that struggled. So it's not clear, in my opinion, if there's a significant impact. I mean, remember, this is a lot more of a mental game for them than it is the running backs, the wide receivers that are physically cutting and whatnot. There is an increased risk of concussion. I've seen data up to 700%, 7x, over the next 90 days, which is obviously pretty much the end of the rest of the season. Obviously, that's not going to change anything per se to say, hey, we're not going to start him because of the increased risk. We saw Tua's increased risk and Olave and Eckler and a bunch of other guys. But I don't, expect a significant dip or change in performance.
Hey, let me fast forward to the team that has a bye. I asked that because for all the Detroit fans in here, the Lions, just an update of what you know with the bye week, knowing, and let's just say all things are perfect and the Lions end up in Super Bowl in New Orleans. Aiden Hutchinson, Montgomery, any shot at all in those two?
Montgomery will be back next week.
Wow.
He if you look at the data for his effectiveness this year, compared to other teams' running backs, he was very effective. Compared to Jahmyr Gibbs, he is not effective at all. It's like they're on different planets. Gibbs is in the top 3 for every metric. The majority of the metrics that for effectiveness in the field, Montgomery was 30th. It's like they don't even deserve to be on the same field. That's how good Gibbs is. With that being said, they might want to take a little pressure off. They know Montgomery's a little bit of a heavier back. He is still at increased risk. I have my little model here. I don't think they ever confirmed exactly, but it sounds like a pretty significant MCL sprain inside of the knee. Remember, they were talking, hey, he should get shut down and have surgery. It's only been a month and a couple days, so that's kind of a big deal between, hey, season-ending surgery and, hey, he's back in a week. With that being said, he probably had a moderate grade 2 MCL sprain, which causes a little bit of meniscal tearing often because they're attached. So he might wear a little sleeve. He's not going to wear those big bulky braces like we talked about the other day. Most of the time, if he gets hit on the outside of the knee, the inside of the knee buckles. That's traditionally how these happen. So he is at increased risk. But, they could potentially hold him out one more week. But it sounds like he's doing good.
That's interesting.
Doc, so I know you talked about this a little bit earlier this week, but the ruling came out that's official that Zay Flowers would be missing the game this weekend. I know it's not really a shock to you, but just for the fans who didn't listen to it earlier this week, kind of dive into exactly what that injury is and just how do you see him, I guess, progressing throughout the playoffs?
Yeah, so this one is not super clear. When I saw the initial video of the play, I was like, I don't like the way it happened. It was kind of a posterior view. His right leg kind of gave out a little bit, and you're like, oh, what happened? But that wasn't where the injury was. It was actually when he started to roll, and there was a player that came across him to basically try not to hit him, but unfortunately, he ended up clipping him a little bit. It's not super clear what happened. It's one of 2 injuries, most likely 2 injuries. It's either what we call an LCL sprain, which is on the outside of the leg, not common at all, but it can happen. You get that by hitting the inside of the knee. Obviously, the other knee is usually there. That's why you don't usually do it. And then you sprained this whole corner, which is a pain, and it's a very important corner. The other thing that could have happened, and it's hard to tell because of just the nature of the speed, is he clipped the patellar tendon. And that sometimes causes it to pop out and then causes a little bit of discomfort. To give you an idea, he could potentially return next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if this ended his season. It's kind of one of those, regardless of how far they go. So it depends on severity. If this is a very, very, very mild LCL, then maybe he comes back in a week. Remember, he's very shifty. He's not like a straight route guy, like a go route. He's very shifty. He's gonna cut and weave and wind, and like that's a lot of stress to cut back and forth. And you're asking the lateral part of the knee to brace and then rotate back, and that's what that's for. That's what we use it for. If it's a patellar, if it's a patellar tendon issue or a patellar actual issue, then it's not as concerning. You can wear a brace that will pretty much hold it in place, throw a little KT tape in there, fine. If it's an LCL sprain, I have more concern that he won't be back. So, maybe he misses next week as well. And then I think the week after, if they're obviously still in it, then he could potentially play. He won't, in my opinion, if it's LCL, he won't be 100% until 25, until the next season. Because these just take a long time, and there's a lot of moving parts to that part of the knee where you're pretty much picking up and rotating and planting and shifting, and all of that into these small little ligaments on the outside, and usually they get beat up. Similar injury to Rashid Rice, but I think Rice's is much worse.
Hey Doc, since we're in LA and we're in the fire zone, obviously if Smitty pans out, he'll show you there's the fires to our right. Right over those hills is where the fires all occurred. That's Palisades, Rancho Palos Verdes, Pacific Palisades. The Ram game was moved for obvious reasons. Can you explain why they moved to Arizona for the simple fact of is it more player purpose or fan purpose on the inhalants of the of all the toxins and everything that the fire brought?
Good question. Well, I mean, my prayers go out to all of the people that are obviously affected by this. For whatever reason this happened, and I'm sure there's some conspiracy theories and whatever it is, it's happening, and it's awful. It's really crazy. Regardless of value of homes and whatever, it's just the fact that it's physically happening is crazy. But with that being said, this does have a significant downstream effect in terms of air quality, in terms of inhalants, in terms of all that stuff. And as a result, that stuff carries for miles and miles and miles. And you don't want 80,000, I don't know how many people that stadium holds, but 50,000, whatever the number is. You don't want them sitting in their cars, inhaling it from outside to get to the stadium. Then they're in the stadium and it's open air or semi-open air, whatever they call it. And you're just, saturating them. So it's just not worth the risk. Yes, it takes a home game away from a playoff team, so they earned that. But unfortunately, this is the only second time it's only ever been moved, and the other one was in like 1936 or something crazy like that. And it will have an impact. The line is already moved. It went from -1 to -2.5 for the Vikings. So this is in favor of the Vikings, unfortunately, but it's safety.
Just give you an update, Doc. I just got out the harbor, so now we're in open water, and we're gonna just post up here for a minute while you're on, and then I'm gonna hit it with Smitty, and we're gonna go over to this little island and post up for rest of the show. We got Avion Kason, 10-year NFL vet, joining us. Shaun King, Super Bowl champ, obviously, and then Big Matt McChesney joins us. So we got a lot going on. The Notre Dame game was last night. College football game tonight. I don't know if you have any update or do you follow. I know you don't do college as much. You do cover though. Quinn Ewers, any issue with him at all that you know of? Is he fully healthy?
I haven't checked his updated status. He has had his fair share of injuries this year and last year for that matter. But I have to see what his updated status is. I was focusing on Carter yesterday, heading into that. In your opinion, how did Carter look? Yeah, the game was like 20 minutes north of me, but I didn't go. I didn't pay attention.
You know what? To me, he was impactful. He made plays. He got in the backfield. I think he had 2 sacks, if not more. But the sacks he didn't get that he impacted were even more, to me, more vital than the sack he actually got. So, I mean, he caused a lot of havoc, in my opinion.
And that was limited.
I think he's the number 1 draft pick. I think he's probably, to a lot of people, the number 1 pick. The tight end as well for Penn State. who was balling for the most part. You know, he got a concussion. I thought he hit his head pretty hard. I thought he was going to stay out, but he came back in. And I think those two are going to go in the top 10. But other than that, I think Carter looked okay. They lost that game at the end, but I mean, I thought he was all right.
Yeah, and we saw that you know, he was restricted probably with an AC sprain, if I were to guess, just based on the video. If it was a dislocation, I just don't think he would have been able to play that quickly. So it was probably an AC sprain, and so he was probably at 80%, 85%, something like that, especially because he's running into people with that shoulder. So obviously that causes a lot more pain. So that gives you an idea of his talent level if he's doing that at that high of a level with an injury that was definitely bothering him, regardless of how much medicine they gave him.
No doubt. Any other updates for these playoff games this weekend? I know we got Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
The Packers,
the
Packers are pretty healthy. The Packers are pretty healthy. Considering Jordan Love will be fine, no restrictions with his elbow. They obviously lost Watson. They'll get Dobbs back with his illness or whatever that was. The Rams are super healthy. The Vikings will, what's his name, has his quad, but I'm not really worried about that. I don't expect Sam Darnold to have any issues after he got stepped on or ankle, whatever the minor thing was. The Bills are pretty healthy. You know, they had their extra kind of quote unquote bye week last week. So they're healthier probably than they've been all season. They finally have Kincaid, they have Cooper, they have Shakir, they have Cook. So they're healthy. With that being said, you know, the Lions have a nice extra week. The Chiefs have an extra week to get healthy. That will allow them to get a couple of their guys. Chris Jones is dealing with a calf strain. He should be maybe not 100%, but much better because of the extra bye week, including missing the last game. And then, you know, for the most part, we'll see. I'm curious to see if Deontay Johnson is going to be more effective with the Houston Texans in light of the Tank Dell and Diggs injuries. And then, you know, Dobbins tweaked his knee last week. I don't know if it was the same side or the other side, but he ended up coming back in. So I want to see if there's any ramifications of that. The Broncos are healthy from an offensive perspective. They don't have any guys that I'm worried about. And then Dallas Goedert came back last week, got some of the, you know, rust off. So he should be feeling pretty good. So, you know, most of the guys that were banged up are good.
The front of you don't got to do that. Just make sure.
Got you, man. So I know I'm excited about these playoffs. I guess outside of injuries, before you go, what's your like early predictions on the wild card weekend? You got any games or anything schedule here? Like, who are you excited about?
Ravens, Chargers. I think Allen pulls it off, although I think that game will be close. Eagles, the Commanders Bucks game is going to be bananas. That could go either way. I have no idea.
That's the game of the weekend, in my opinion.
I have no idea which way that is going. My mentor is the team doc for the Bucks, so I have a little bit edge over there. But in general, I think it'll be a great game. And then the one I'm actually most interested in is, can LA upset the Vikings? You know,
I'm all in with the Rams, Doc. I'm gonna be honest. I'm all in with the Rams, and now this is all happening. When we get up moved and things happen like this, what's the mindset of the team? You know, they did all this to get the 3 seed and win the West.
Yeah.
After all the injuries all year long and losing the wideouts for multiple games and getting through what they did and being what they are. No one expected the Rams to even be a playoff team after the injuries occurred. And then you get a home field, which their home field in LA, we all know, are a bunch of homers. And usually you have the opponent's team fans much more in droves than even the LA fans. And the last 6 games, LA fans have shown up and had a true home support at SoFi. And now you get upended and have to go to Arizona. And I just think it's a mental game now. And McVay has to get that team back. And it's a short hop, 50-minute flight to Arizona, but at the same time, it's not home.
Yeah.
You know what though, JB? I can see Sean McVay using this situation going on in LA as like a way to like almost inspire the team. He's such a great leader and great coach that, you know, great leaders will use what's going on in the real world and will try to find anything to light a fire underneath their team. So on the flip side, I can see this being like an inspiration for them to like try to uplift LA as we're going through all this stuff and make them play that much harder. So we'll see. But that's a very intriguing game. We saw how Darnold played last week.
That sounds good for college and high school. NFL, the death and the story, the good feel good. That doesn't work in the NFL when these guys gotta get a check on the 1st and 15th. It just doesn't work the same. We found out over time. I mean, I know what you're saying, but in college, that's a big thing. That's bulletin board material. In the NFL, though, once the kickoff hits, those grown men are like, all right, it's payday. Let's go get paid. This is not about anything else. I think the NFL's a little different, but I get what you're saying. We'll see if they use it for motivation or not. But it's going to be interesting, man, having to go to Arizona and another in their West rivals arena. And I'm just going to throw it out there. For whatever reason, they do not fucking play well in Arizona.
Yeah, and the other thing I thought was impressive is if you scale back to week 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it was, you look at the Rams, like they're done. Like try to trade Puka if they or Cooper Kupp if they can. Like see what they can get for some of these other guys. Like they don't really have a chance. They didn't know when Puka was coming back, and then all of a sudden they're got a home field. So it's like that was a hell of a turnaround. I think the rest of the NFC kind of made it happen for them. If he were there in the AFC, I just don't think it would have happened. It was kind of like the Bengals. Like regardless how good they played, it was too late. It didn't matter. But it you know, for the Rams obviously it has. So good for them. It'll be interesting to see what Flores does to Stafford, and if it's similar to what they did last week. Or you see, you know, can McVay do what Flores did to, or the Detroit did to Darnold? You know, like that. Do they use that? I mean, they'd be dumb not to at least try it. And then does Darnold have an answer for that? Right, that's the question. Does Darnold have an answer for what he just faced now that he has the film? You know. Because if not, then it's an epic failure. They're going to have an amazing season, and they're going to be one and done, or not even.
Yeah, and then do they re-sign Darnold, and all that shit's going to resurface in the conversation? Yeah. Yeah,
so that becomes an interesting point. You know, and we'll see if J.J. McCarthy should be good. But then the question is, do you sit him for another year, or does he start, or you know? So I think there's a lot of questions, but you focus on winning right now.
No doubt. Doc, man, it's always a pleasure. We're here on the Pacific Ocean. I don't know if you're going to Super Bowl or not. If you're not, man, I'll fly you out here. I do a big Super Bowl party. You got comedians, Netflix comedians. We got performers, artists. Every year I usually do a big Super Bowl bash. So I'm having one. We're going to try to get as many show guests out here as we can.
I'll let you know. I'm
Weddle and everybody else. So
my March is crazy, but my February looks pretty open right now.
Oh, all right. We'll see. We'll talk then.
All right. You guys have a good week. Stay safe.